Well, welcome, Shilpa. It's really lovely to have you with us today. I understand that you're a leading prescribing pharmacist and a partner in a GP practice, which I'm sure will be of great interest to many of our listeners.
Hi, Linda. Hi, thanks for having me today. I've been on a bit of a journey, so I think I'm here today to just share bits of that with you and hopefully inspire some of your listeners to embark on a similar journey at some point.
Yes, that would be wonderful. So perhaps a really good place for us to start would be a little bit about your career pathway.
Okay, so I'm a pharmacist and I have been for about 23 years now. Started in community pharmacy
Mhm.
and I was there for about 15 years. And I've then moved over to being a GP pharmacist. So I work as a pharmacist running clinics and things like that in a GP practice. And then recently, well, 4 years ago, I became a partner at the practice. So I've kind of been in lots and lots of different roles over the year. And I think all those three, community to GP to partner, have been three completely kind of separate roles that I've kind of had. Obviously, there's things I've learned along the way, which they kind of call transferable skills.
Mhm.
And I've suddenly realized that I've learned a lot in community pharmacy, which is helping me right now. So, they're the kind of things I like to share with people.
I think that's great because I think you're probably still quite unusual in being a pharmacist who's a partner in a general practice. So I guess it would be really interesting for people to hear a little bit about how you made that transition.
Mm, mm.
Um,
Yeah, so I mean, I never ever, I didn't even think this was possible. So, it wasn't something I strived to be. I didn't even know that we would at some point need pharmacists in GP practices. So, I was happily going along doing my community pharmacy work for many, many years. Had a family, raised my kids, and it was a really good job because it's very flexible, and you can work around the kids. You can work long days if you want to just put them in nursery and get rid of them for like 3 days a week, and just pay the high fees for 3 days, and then I spent a lot of time with them on my days off, that kind of thing. And then at one point I used to just work in the evenings late at night. So pharmacy is quite good that way. You can be quite flexible with your work hours. But then I think when my kids got a little bit older, I started kind of looking beyond and thinking I wanted something that would meet my kind of clinical. I'd learned loads of clinical skills at university and kind of forgotten a lot of them. And I just felt like I needed something different. I'd kind of got a little bit bored in my
Mhm.
role. I'd kind of reached as far up as I could, and just I started exploring, other avenues within community pharmacy. You can become an area manager, and you can do lots of different kind of managerial positions. And I went on a few leadership courses there. Like there's an Aspire program that you can do for pharmacists. I did that, and so I was just kind of dipping in and out of things, thinking I need to
Mhm.
be doing something different. But then this opportunity came along to be a GP pharmacist, and that was 7 years ago. And I kind of just grabbed it, went ahead and thought, let me see where that can take me. And so I became a general practice pharmacist 7 years ago, and I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. Like I remember my first day, the practice manager said to me, what can you do for us? And I was like, I don't know what I can do for you. I just didn't understand general practice at all. It
Yeah.
was all completely new. And Linda, we've got 9 pharmacists in our surgery now.
Oh,
And
wow.
each pharmacist that joins us, I always, on the first day, I say to them, look, I know it's a complete different career move. I know you're not going to have a clue. I've been there. You have
Mhm.
to relearn everything. You have to understand the processes. Even if the clinical knowledge is there, you don't know how things work, and it's completely different in general practice from kind of a community pharmacy. So I spent quite a while kind of learning all of that, and I had been working there for 2 years. made a lot of kind of improvements, changed a lot of the processes, the repeat prescription process. And I kind of realized that, as I was saying earlier, with these transferable skills, I learned that, when I was a community pharmacist, I was really organized, and you have to have a lot of structure in your day, and you have to be really resilient, you have to be a risk taker, you have to, you're the final person, you get queries from your counter assistants and your pharmacy technicians, and I'm so used to being kind of the last port, the person who makes the final decision, especially, we're open on Saturdays and Sundays in community pharmacies, so you can't, it's either us or A&E, so you're having to make all these decisions, and I think it just makes you quite resilient. And I realized, I think it was that whole organization side of me came out when I joined general practice, and they recognized that. And so after 2 years, it was the GPs, the partners, who offered me a partnership at the surgery, and it was something I didn't really want at all in the beginning. I was like, no, I love my nice new kind of 9 to 4 working hours, and not having to work at the weekends and things like that. But it's been amazing. It's been a really, really amazing thing for me. Obviously, it was very new for pharmacists. We've never been in this situation before, or there's not many of us. But it's just meant that I've been able to have more authority within the practice. I've got a lot of ideas. I've been using kind of my creative kind of side of my brain, and when I have an idea, I can just go with it, and as long as it works, they're happy, and sometimes it doesn't work, and they're like, yeah, well, you tried. So I'm at a place where I really, really enjoy my job, which I don't think I ever did before. I absolutely love it. I can't wait for Mondays. So it's like, it's quite sad actually, but yeah, I love it.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. And one of the things you mentioned was building your resilience, and that's a question. I do quite a lot of coaching with healthcare professionals and people, and it's something that people often come to me with, is how do I build my resilience? How did you find yours, and how did you build it?
I really think working in community pharmacy, so as I say, I've got 9 pharmacists working for me. They've all come from community pharmacy. I did have a community pharmacist who was newly qualified, and they didn't have it. They didn't have that kind of, and it's a combination of resilience, work ethics, kind of. You become a very strong character from working in a community pharmacy. It's a harsh job. It's not easy at all. And you and what I keep telling my community pharmacist colleagues is, you don't realize what it's doing to you. You go to work, you come home, you think you're just doing, I used to call it a Mickey Mouse job. I say, I'm just going in to do my Mickey Mouse job, because to us it just feels like we're just doing the same thing day in, day out. But actually it's building you as a person. And I think the reason why we become resilient is we get thrown so many different things at us. And from day one, you just have to learn how to deal with it, because you are the responsible pharmacist of the day, and all the staff around you are relying on you. All your patients are relying on you. And whether you like it or not, you just end up having to do things you don't want to do. You're having to multitask. There was a lot of tears over the years, because I'd be standing. I remember, I'd be standing in the room, and I've got prescriptions to check off. I've got a queue of people wanting their morning after pill, so I have to go in the consultation room to do that. At the same time, next to the morning after pill, I've got people who have come for the fertility clinic, and you're kind of dealing with that whole dilemma of those two things at the same time. You've got people waiting for their flu jabs. You've got staff issues, someone who hasn't come in, because community pharmacists are managers of the dispensary as well. So it's the worst job, but it's actually the best thing that's ever happened for me, because it's just made me a really, really strong person. And that's what I'm finding, those really difficult jobs, difficult roles that you get into, they strengthen you. And sometimes I think, they get sent your way for you to have to kind of build that. And I'm finding that with, you know, kind of, I speak to my children about it. So my children are now teenagers, and one's a very young adult. And I kind of, you know, if we're too easy on them and they're not facing problems on a regular kind of, you know, we're sometimes too kind to them. You know, we try and make sure everything's okay for them and they have a smooth life. And we didn't have it like that when I grew up. You know, I was just told to you know, I was forced to do a lot of things. I was forced, you know, I was told what I had to do. I was never really asked. And I think those kind of things build you as a stronger person. And so I don't, you know, and I'm trying to do that with my kids now, and you know, trying to be strict with them and trying to make them realize that, you know, no, sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do just to build that kind of strength.
Now, I'm quite intrigued by the fact that you said there were lots of tears, because I think people often have the assumption that if you're resilient, it's like Teflon, you don't feel these things. But actually, I think they're felt. It's just how you choose to
deal with it, or how you deal. Yeah, I know. I mean, a lot of times you're taking me back to my community pharmacy days, and there was lots of times where I would have just left, and I don't know why I even put up with it at some points. You know, you've got your mortgage and you know, and I think for me it was, oh my God, this just works. It works around the kids because I'm working 3 long days a week. I've got, you know, and that I was kind of doing my full-time hours within 3 days. And I don't have to work weekends. I get to, you know, raise my family, and, you know, and you think there's nothing better out there. So, and that's probably why there was a lot of tears. I mean, I can remember with my dispensers and my staff, and, you know, we used to all, there was many days where we just didn't like what we were doing, but we would just put up with it, and it would be too busy, and you were too busy to even think about what you're doing, or trying to reorganize it, or and yeah, no, so we weren't strong, but well, we were strong, but yeah, we still kind of broke down every so often.
It's about, you know, being human.
It is about being human. And, you know, when I think back at it now, and I think, well, I wouldn't have been where I am now if I hadn't have been through that. You know, I now, I mean, it's really funny because people talk about general practice being really busy, and, you know, it's crazy out there. There's a crisis, and me and my pharmacist sit there and go, oh, what's so bad about it? It's not that bad, you know, like, because we've seen the worst. And, you know, when they go into a panic, or the GPs go into a panic, I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's not as bad as what we used to have. We honestly feel like this is so much easier than what we've been doing before. So and you know, so we're, you know, and it shows, because the reason why I've been able to bring so many pharmacists in is because they're so hardworking, and they're, you know, they're proving themselves. They're all proving themselves. And, you know, whenever a GP leaves and we're not able to replace them, we bring a pharmacist in, and their work ethic is just incredible, and they just, you know, work, and they're loving their new job, right? So so they're but, you know, they've brought all these skills with them. I had a pharmacist apply for a job just 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was newly qualified, and I just said, you know, you need to go and build that kind of resilience before you can be strong enough to, you need to learn primary care, you need to learn kind of everything before you, because it's a highly skilled role being a GP pharmacist, and I think you need to go on that journey before you can come in and do this.
So what have been your standout or defining moments, would you say, along the way that have triggered the changes and getting you into this recent leadership role?
I suppose leaving the community pharmacy was probably one of the best things I've ever done. I went back to uni when I was, how old was I? Probably about 35. And did a 1-year independent prescribing training course. So that really changed my life, because that qualification, you know, opened all these new avenues for me. Obviously, being offered the partnership has had a huge impact. And I suppose the thing that I'm the most proud of, out of everything I do, is that I've now become kind of like a leader to this team. And I feel like I'm a really good leader for them. I feel really proud of what I've achieved. I feel like I look after them really well. I feel like, I put their needs way above anything else. I put the needs of our staff above the needs of the company at many points, which a lot of kind of, as a manager, I never used to do that. Whereas I feel like I've been able to inspire a lot of pharmacists kind of into this position. And I talk about it all the time, kind of on social media and things like that. And I'm trying to get a lot of pharmacists to realize that there are other things you can do. The pharmacy's changed now in UK, and there's so many different kind of things you could be doing. And I'm trying to get people to understand that and take that leap, and by sharing my story. But yeah, what I feel really proud about right now is my wonderful team, and how we've kind of grown over the last 7 years to become this team. And we've had a really special month actually, where we took a week out and just we had kind of like a conference just for the 6 main pharmacists, and we did a lot of training, a lot of workshops, played lots of drug related games. Fun games, and it was
I'm sure they were legal.
I know, yeah. I felt like I needed to add something. And it was a beautiful week where we got to know each other better, because we were all kind of working together well. But the kind of feedback that I got during this week from them all, and how all their lives have changed, and they're absolutely loving where they are, that's something that probably is one of the proudest things that I've kind of achieved during my whole career.
That sounds wonderful. I just wonder how you might describe your leadership style.
Oh, see, so I've had a bit of leadership training in the last 2 years. So before that, it's all just been from experience. So I'd say I'm very empathetic, maybe a bit too empathetic. My fault, which I've identified recently, is I can't say no. I'm really bad at saying no. And I'm actually a bit confused right now whether I should be working on that or not, because I quite like the fact that I always feel like I can find a solution to the problem, and I can always, I kind of always say yes, and then I find a solution. But I also know that it's not the right thing, because sometimes if I don't say no to someone, it can upset somebody else. So that's probably the thing that I don't do very well. But I think what I do really well is empathize, really listen to my staff, really understand them. I spend a lot of time, I'm quite spiritual myself, so I think I believe in karma, and I believe in kind of the law of attraction, and I've got a faith, my Sikh faith that I follow, and it's all about kindness and doing the right thing. And so I think I use that a lot in my leadership style, where I spend a lot of time understanding what the person wants and just listen to them. And sometimes I'll ask them the question and they don't even know, and together we kind of try and figure out what they want. It's really funny because I've had a new member of staff start recently, and I asked them what they wanted. They said they'd never been asked that before. It's always what the company wants. The company needs this and the company needs that. And I just said, what do you want? What do you want your job to look like? And she said she'd never been asked that before. And I thought,
it's quite sad.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's I think I'm a very positive person. And I like to believe I'm really kind and fair. And I feel almost like I set up a shield that protects my team. So a lot of the things that come their way, I'm kind of like this wall that just absorbs it all. And I, if if there's appointment issues or anything like that, I'll never talk to them about it. I'll just solve it all, and they won't even know about it. And so when so that allows them to carry on kind of working and be comfortable and be happy in their work. And I suppose the only reason why I can do that is because I think I am very resilient, and I don't get upset very easily, and I don't carry things for, if I have to make loads of decisions in the day, I'll never think about it in the evening. I don't bring my work home with me. I kind of just, and I think that's probably what helps me be quite, shielding towards them. I almost treat my staff as though they're my kids. I feel like I'm their mum, and I treat them the way I would treat my children, which I've had 20 years experience doing that, and I've had 20 years experience doing this other thing. So but I think the reason why my team now is getting kind of a lot more from me is because I'm really happy in my role, and they probably see that, and they all are aspiring to kind of be as in that same situation. And I'm able to do whatever I want. Before working for a company who was making all the decisions for me, I didn't feel like I could manage my staff very well. And see, I still go back to that managerial kind of terminology when I was with them. But whereas here, I'd never call myself a boss or a manager. I'm just there to facilitate things for them, just to make sure their work life is better.
It sounds to me like you found a way to not take things personally. Would that be true?
Sorry, I missed that, Linda.
As it sounds to me as if you found a way to not take things personally.
I think it's probably a skill that you could probably learn, or you can probably train yourself towards. But I mean, obviously I do get upset if someone says something bad to me. I'm not completely resilient, but there's a lot of times where I think people would take things to heart, and I don't. I'm quite a problem solver. I'm quite a completer, finisher. I just want things sorted out. And if I have to apologize to people, doesn't bother me. I'm just like, I'm really sorry. It's all my fault, and and then I move on. I don't even think about it anymore. So I'm not an overthinker at all. In fact, I probably do the opposite. I underthink. I just go and do things without thinking them through. But so I'm trying to think from my leadership learnings, the trainings that I've been on recently. I suppose it's that whole no thing. I'm trying to figure out whether I need to learn how to say no. Sometimes no to staff, employees asking me for things, and I'll say no. I won't say no, sorry. I'll just always make sure it's possible, to the point where sometimes we'll have 3 staff off at the same time, and I'm like, oh, it'll be fine, and then it's not fine.
So are there people along the way who've inspired you? Because quite often I find that when I speak to people in leadership roles, there've been a couple of people along the way that have really inspired them to get out and do what their best.
I think where I'm working at the moment, there's specifically 2 people who have really inspired me. I think it's inspired me to realize the value of myself. I don't feel like I'd ever stopped or stepped back to think, oh, actually I am doing quite a good job. I am quite a good pharmacist. I've never really I've just been on working really hard and not thought about it. And the culture that I'm in right now, the lead GP, Dr. Laura Marshall-Andrews, she was the first person who kind of said to me, "You're amazing, Shilpa," and I truly didn't believe it. I truly didn't, and the way she speaks to all her staff, and so they're the kind of people where you think, oh, what would Laura do? Because what would she do in this situation? And then our practice manager, Gary, who is full of, he's got such a personality. He's inspired me for the last 2-3 years, well, 7 years I've been with them. and then I've got another doctor who I work with, who I've been working with recently for the last 2 years, Dr. Sam Hall. So I think all three of them, they've just made me realize, that I can achieve more, and they've made me value myself more, and they've made me, and just having been given that confidence has made me kind of push away from the norm. And well, they're the ones who offered me the partnership, which I never thought, and I even went back and said, why would you want me to be your partner? Like, I just didn't understand it. I didn't have anything like this in mind. I was like, my kids are moving out now, I'm just gonna retire now, go traveling or something like that. But my career completely took off after they recognized me, and and now I just kind of, they push me all the time. They're always encouraging me to do things, and I think that's what motivates me. But they've really inspired me.
That's brilliant. And before we kind of wind up this conversation, there's one final question that I like to ask people. What would you like to be remembered for?
I would like to be remembered as an inspiration, an inspiring pharmacist. I've managed to find a job which doesn't feel like a job. When they say find work that doesn't feel like work for you, then you won't ever want to retire. I feel like I'm kind of at that point. So I'd love to be remembered as somebody who inspires other pharmacists to reach out and try different things, and use their their creativity or their passion, find their passion, and go and work towards that.
Brilliant. It's been lovely talking to you, and I think a lot of people will take quite a bit from these few short minutes that we spent together today. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.